First of all, let me thank the ETSU Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies for this honor. It really is humbling. And I also want to give a heartfelt thanks to all of my colleagues who nominated me. It's very meaningful, and I appreciate it very much. It's kind of daunting, right? Talking about oneself, especially when I'm used to a life behind the spotlight, as it were. So bear with me. It's kind of nerve-wracking. So when I first was told that I had to do this presentation, I had a couple of different thoughts. The first one was, here's your life, a loaf of bread. I don't know if you remember Sesame Street, but I didn't really start watching it till I was a teenager. But it was one of my favorite little skits that they did, kind of a spoof on This Is Your Life. Then I thought it's an opportunity for a self-eulogy. How many of those opportunities does one get to talk about oneself while you're still alive? Although I guess it's hard to talk about oneself when you're not alive, so there you go. Then I probably thought I should address why theater design and production, what led me down that path. And then I also thought, well, there have been a lot of notable women in my life, and perhaps I should also address that. So it's kind of a mix mash of all of those things. So please, bear with me. I think I could do it that way. There it is. Here's your life, a loaf of bread. There was an NBC radio and television show in the, 50s and 60s. This Is Your Life. And Here's Your Life, a Loaf of Bread was a parody of that with puppets on Sesame Street. And it occurs to me that while, it was educating smaller children on how to, where bread comes from, right? But I think I took away from it, unbeknownst to me at the time, a growing sense of genre and style, which has been a big part of my life, especially in the last 10 years, writing it with my colleague, Karen Brewster. Then I looked up self-eulogy, and it had lots of good points there that I could follow. And so we'll try to, keep it personal and authentic and have a nice little style and tone. All right, so it starts here. My parents, Ed and Lois, are no longer with us, unfortunately, but they met at a swimming pool in Belleville, Illinois. My mom was 16 at the time. My father was 20. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And they were married 3 months later. My mom got married on her 17th birthday, and they were together for 53 years. Really remarkable people, and I'll dive into that here a little bit deeper. All right. When my mom, she did drop out of high school. She got her GED at the age of 41, I think. But she always stressed the importance of education to me, and would, if I had a dime for every time she said, "Don't do what I did, have a career, wait to get married, don't drop out, stick with it." So that was kind of influential. My mom was influential in a number of ways. There's my siblings and I. I'm the youngest of four. They're on the right. My brother Mark, Mike, Mindy, and Melissa. And yes, we're all named after M's. And my siblings have all continued that tradition by naming all of their kids with the first initial being the same. Kara, I want to point out that this hearthstone ended my dance career. Yes, I have a little scar. It's still visible that 56 years ago, I was twirling around in the living room after watching some ballet thing, and boom, right on the corner of that hearthstone. Ended my dance career. My parents were aviators. The story goes that my father was working for John Deere, and we were living outside of Cleveland, Ohio, where I was born, where my father was raised, and where his parents lived. And he came home from work one day and told my mom, "I want to take flying lessons." And she said, "The hell you are. You're not leaving me here with 4 kids. If you're doing it, I'm doing it." So my parents became pilots. And within short order, they had their instrument ratings, their commercial ratings. My father went on to get his teaching rating. And it was a big part of their lives, my life, in my formative years. Yes, there's my mom. My mom was a card-carrying member of NOW, and she was the president of at a time, of the local 99s chapter in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a women's pilot organization. And in 1967, she and her friend Amy Laws actually participated in the Powder Puff Derby, which is a women's air race. And they flew across the country from Atlantic City to Torrance, California. So my mom was cool. She was very cool. And very influential. We moved to a farm in 1969. Prior to that time, my parents, when we moved to Illinois, I was 2 years old. After my father's parents died, we moved to Illinois to be close to my mom's parents. And my dad and mom owned 3 laundromats. And they had this little sign that said, Lois and I wash and dry, which was kind of fun. But they sold the laundromats, and we moved to a farm about 25 miles east of St. Louis, and very flat land there. And they farmed dairy cattle for about 5 years until they decided that that was a losing proposition. There's no money in dairy farming. And it is a grueling life, right? 365, no vacations. The cows line up whether you're, wanting them to or not. So they sold what cattle they could, had the rest ground into hamburger, and paved a runway. When we moved to the farm, they put in a grass strip, so they kept their plane there at the farm, but they decided to go into aviation kind of as a full-time occupation. So they paved a runway, and my dad opened a flight school, and boom, there's my mom and my grandfather standing in front of his J3 Cub, 1939 J3 Cub. So my grandfather also learned to fly. And that plane was really cool. J3 Cubs cruise at about 70 miles an hour, and you can fly with the door open and yell at people down below. It's kind of fun. That's me. I soloed on my 16th birthday. It was my parents' big dream for me to do that. So, I did the ground school and the flight lessons. And on my 16th birthday, we got up early in the morning, and I went up and soloed in a Piper Arrow. And then I went and got my driver's license. And it really was the goal. I didn't really follow up after that. I was much more interested in being a teenager. I was doing theater and art classes at the time, and it seemed like that was more interesting to me than following in my parents' footsteps. But I like these pictures because I'm sporting a corduroy jacket with the big 70s lapels. Yes. I graduated from high school in 1979. That's me with long hair, probably one of the few pictures that exists of me with long hair. If you remember back in the Hearthstone there, I still had the short haircut. Again, my mom stressed the importance of education, so I did go to college. I went to Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, and then got my MFA at Southern Illinois Carbondale. And then from there, went to the University of Alabama at Birmingham for my first job. And that's the scene shop there at UAB, me striding across some platforms and such. And another picture of me stage managing at Tulane University sometime later. It was in 1999 that I came to ETSU. And I put those excerpts of our mission statements and our vision statements there because I really like what we have become. Our department, I'm very proud to be a part of. I think we do really good things, and I think we have a great mission and a great vision for what we want to be. The Martin Center has changed things incredibly just in these last few years. And yes, that's a picture of Larry up on our grid, right? We're very blessed to have ETSU photographers archive and document our shows, and they have been great friends, right? To us. And it's important because, theater is a really transitory thing, right? It only exists in that moment. And for our students to have their work documented for portfolios and such, having good quality professional photography really matters. And it has helped them a lot. So we appreciate that. All right. Again, just in the last, when did we become a standalone department? 2017? So in what? Math was not my specialty. So since 2017, I won't do a number of years, we've developed 5 different concentrations. We've been NAST accredited. And in the early days, which is my next little slide, we went from, right, when I was hired in 1999, there were 3 faculty members. It was Bobby Funk and myself and Delbert Hall. In 2000, we got another faculty line and hired Karen Brewster. And we were part of the Department of Communication, and then Department of Communication and Performance, and then the Department of Theater and Dance. And in these last, again, math, 7, 8 years? Yeah, 7 years? Thanks. It has grown enormously. And I'm extremely, extremely fortunate, really, to work with the people I work with. And I appreciate that. I have fallen back on my notes, so I'm going to fast forward here just to make sure I'm not skipping anything. I wrote on here, that's the strongest group of people, the most collaborative and supportive group that I've had the pleasure to work with in 40 years. So it's a good thing. All right, so in 1999, it was Bobby Funk who called me. He and I had worked together at UAB, and he said that there was a job opening here in East Tennessee, and would I apply for it? And I leapt at it. In the late 80s, I had gone camping in the Smokies, and I thought if there was ever a job opening in this area of the country, I would leap at it. It's the most beautiful, I think, place on earth. It's a really lovely space to be. So I leapt at it. Karen and I were the kind of production team in our early years. We did scenery, lights, costumes, props, sound, all kind of production aspects for a great number of time. Jonathan was one of our students, right? So he can attest. It was a busy time. And this is a picture of our office. Karen and I shared an office, and for a time we shared it with a graduate student in the MAT program in the basement of Brooks Gym. So we've gone from the basement of Brooks Gym to the Martin Center, and like I said, we've grown, and it's really been kind of a lovely, lovely thing. In 2005, because we worked so collaboratively together, and also, truth be told, we were a little siloed down in the basement of Brooks. I used to say that we were comrades in the trenches, working side by side. And from that, I think, grew a very fast friendship, right? We began team teaching a lot of the design and production classes. We team taught stagecraft. We team taught theater design basics. From that, we did a presentation at the International Conference of Arts and Humanities in Hawaii in 2005. That's us looking happy in the sunset. And from that, from this team teaching, from this presentation, we developed a textbook, our first textbook, The Fundamentals of Theatrical Design. It's been in print now for, what's the math, 13 years? Okay, thanks. And Again, in the intervening years, we got another book contract for Genre and Style. In those intervening years, Karen and I would take many trips. Yes, that's you. I know you love that. I knew when I put this on there, she's not going to like this. But we've taken many trips to New York, to Stratford, the Shaw Festival in Canada, and seen dozens and dozens and dozens of shows together. And invariably, we would, talk for hours after the shows, kind of picking them apart, putting them back together, talking about all of that. And it really, I think, has made me a much better artist, designer, director, and really given me, I think, a deeper insight through those times with my colleague, Karen. We have a book coming out, yes, in April of this next year, Theatrical Genre and Style, and have had Brad has, yes, contributed to that book. Jonathan has put his stamp on it as well. So it's been a collaborative effort, but I think a good one. In 2018, I guess when we were just a new fledgling department, Karen entrusted me with a first directing assignment. And really, it was my first foray into directing, and I've been doing it every year since. And I want to thank her for that opportunity. And I think I have really enjoyed it because after 35 years of doing theater, production and design, working on hundreds of shows, seeing hundreds of shows, it really is kind of the culmination of all of that experience that I can kind of put into a bigger picture. So the first few shows were quirky shows, Dead Man's Cell Phone, Middletown, and yes, that's Lawton Messmer, for those of you who know and love Lawton. Waiting for Godot, which I co-directed actually with Catherine Weiss, and was a wonderful experience. Straight White Men was the second show in the Martin Center that we did in the Bach with Joe Smith. Absolutely delightful. One of the smartest things I did was cast Joe in that role. Little Shop the following year, Heathers, the musical last spring, and currently we are opening, yes, tonight, November 20th at 7:30 p.m. I look at my watch. Cabaret. And again, professional photographers, right? Larry came last night and took pictures. I guess he came Monday night, took pictures. It is an incredible production. And I have to say that, my colleagues make it easy. Kara Harker's choreography, Brad Fugate's musical direction, Jonathan Taylor's set design, Karen Brewster's costume design, Jess and Matt's work in construction. It makes it a joy, and their artistic contributions really, I can't speak highly enough of. Plus, the students involved in the show really are outstanding. So I hope you get a chance to see it. It plays till Sunday. And there is everybody on stage and behind the scenes in the Martin Center. So it really is. It takes a village. Theater takes a village. And this doesn't include the people that were working in the shops doing construction. So all told, I think we have every night in the theater close to 50 people. And then, if you count the people in the shops, the numbers go upward to 80, 90 people working on a show. And again, we're very proud of that. So I am going to read my notes here. I wrote that the collaboration, the beauty of theater really, and what draws me to it and what drew it to me from the very start. When I went to college, I had the intention of being a studio artist, but I took a theater class, is that you have all of these people craftspeople, performers, managers, musical directors and choreographers, designers, working towards the same goal. Everyone is working towards telling that same story and sharing that with an audience. And it is such kind of a collaborative high, if you will, that I highly recommend it if you've never been involved. And then lastly, well, almost lastly, I just wanted to note, we have made an effort, especially in the last few years, to representation matters, right? So we're trying to pick shows that we think matter. Cabaret matters, right? Especially given the times we're living in right now. A lot of the play takes place in the Nollendorf plots, which there's a plaque there with a pink triangle on it. And today is the Transgender Day of Remembrance, which Stacy talked about. And Cabaret deals with all of those issues and a lot more. So I'm very proud to work in a department that takes those things into consideration, that wants to do work that matters. And so, it's nice. I have to censor myself sometimes. But it is nice to be where we're at right now, working with the people I'm working with. It truly is a joy. And then my last little slide is dedicated to you. My brother Mike died 4 years ago due to complications from alcoholism. So to be honored with you means a lot to me. So I just wanted to put that out there. All right. Questions?